I often reference 𝗍𝗫𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗀's quote. He says, pain plus reflection equals progress. And that's in his book, Principles. I do think that one, we try to avoid pain. Good luck. If you're going to be an investor and an entrepreneur, disappointments, frustrations, learnings, these are your gems of education. So pull them apart, look at them, be with your pain, be in that reflection, and you will progress. If not, you'll probably just run and recreate some similar patterns.
You're asking yourself, why am I doing this?
Smart people would know how to use all these different tools. They start with something small.
And never get your entire organization if you don't pull off operations. Don't give up.
It can be as small as that.
I think you guys are going to have our last today.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Delegate That podcast, where we discuss the art and science of delegation, business management, and leadership. I, as always, am your host, 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗃, and today I'm looking forward to a wonderful conversation with Katie Close. We had a fun beginning of this with technology issues, my voice being odd because my kids were playing with my little soundboard over here. So I'm really looking forward to enjoying the rest of this conversation in a normal voice. So Katie, if you can, please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about what you do.
Yes, great. Thank you, Adam. And it's nice to notice that you are a real human and not a robot. So I wasn't sure by that voice, but yeah, he's real, guys. He's real. In light of that, I have been a coach for over 10 years. My husband and I have started 5 different businesses, recently sold a home care business. And in light of that, right, there's a lot of delegation. Everything is done by others. And so we have always valued business, what it does for us as we develop as leaders, and then what it does for our community as we've done mainly service-based businesses. I would say that coaching has been a real passion of mine because I'm fascinated by humans. They are quite intriguing, and I believe they're our best resource. Out of all resources we have on this earth, humans are our best. That's how I feel and believe, and sometimes we need to work with them a bit to pull out their optimal capacities. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today. Thanks, Adam.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the working with humans part is a requirement, right? No matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, you have to work with humans. So as you've had 5 businesses, you said you've started, you recently sold one. So talk to me about what your entrepreneurial journey has looked like and what sort of struggles or dynamics, especially in that human interaction, since that's something you really like, that maybe you started with, that you've kind of worked through, and to walk with me about those 5 businesses, especially.
Well, it's been 20 years and a lot of messy. But what I often say is, we pay for our entrepreneur education with experience. And so my husband and I both met in college and got, I got a master's, and he was in English, things that I'm not sure what he's utilized them for. He decided, he always wanted to be a business owner because he felt like he could leverage. And some of it, I too think we're going to be very independent and in control. And when we get into business, we realize how interdependent it is. Like, I'm not going to have one boss. No, you're going to have 50, all your clients. Like, they're going to tell you how it goes, right? And you have this ability to grow into it. So we started with a moving company. And we kind of got some really great government contracts. The messy part about that was we sent some emails, did not follow up on responses, kind of waited for those emails to be responded to, and they never got them, right? Like, this is the nuance. The details matter. As much as I'm a visionary and I love that, like, you got to, these follow through processes. So lost there, ended up getting in a lot of real estate. We were in moving, and we had just bought our dream home, and it was 2007. If anyone's been around and you were heavily in the real estate market at that time. So we were very humbled by that, but appropriately. I think if you look at sports stars, if they start out at bat and they just start knocking it out of the park, it's a little bit confronting when they go through a slump. They don't know how to handle it. So we've built some resilience. We actually did some nonprofit work for a period of time and had some babies, but we ultimately came back and built a lawn and landscaping business. And we worked with Tony. He wrote the 𝗍𝗵 book for lawn and landscapers with Michael Gerber, if you're familiar with 𝗍𝗵. Mm-hmm. And he really helped us move that business beyond kind of, ourselves and some employees. We got to really grow and see the growth. We sold that. And again, these are all, even the moving business we sold. Even in distress, you can still sell a business. It's just maybe, not optimal. So Lessons learned. Whew, I would say like be tenacious on your follow-ups, right? I would say get some resourceful coaching, right? One, we started to clean up our own interpersonal dynamics, but two, we started to lean into industries specific coaching. It's like somebody already figured this out. Like as independent as we want to be, we are just slowing our process and slowing our profits. Like it's nonsensical. So the home care, by the time we were at that, we were both heavily involved in coaching up ourselves in the industry, and coaching up our teams. And that went well, and we're happy to have been in the business space. But I will say college did not give us quite the education we needed. Experience. Yep. I often reference Ray Dalio's quote. He says, pain plus reflection equals progress. And that's in his book, Principles. I do think that one, we try to avoid pain. Good luck. If you're going to be an investor and an entrepreneur, disappointments, frustrations, learnings, these are your gems of education. So pull them apart, look at them, be with your pain, be in that reflection, and you will progress. If not, you'll probably just run and recreate some similar patterns.
Yeah, you'll have pain in a different direction instead of...
pain in a new business, pain with a new employee. I often say, like, somebody... It's like a dating cycle. Sometimes I'll work with business owners, and it's like, you keep hiring the same person. Have you ever watched somebody date and you're like, it's like, they're like, I'm done with this. And then they get with somebody else. I think you're dating the same person with a new hair color.
Yeah, you just picked a different person with a different name. That's it. Same person, different name. Yeah. And so too many people do that in their business too. They don't make the right decisions, like you said, with the hiring, and that you put yourself into this hamster wheel of issues that you don't realize that you're putting yourself into, because you just feel the pain and make a change, but you don't reflect on why you felt the pain. So I love that pain plus reflection equals progress. It's the only way to get the progress is to actually do that reflection. Yes.
Yeah. Do you feel overwhelmed with mundane tasks that eat up your valuable time? It's time to reclaim your schedule and focus on what truly matters. Get your time back with elite remote talent without the time zone hassle. Delegate $10 an hour tasks to focus on more $1,000 an hour tasks. Schedule your free strategy call at 𝗺𝗍ance.io.
So I want to rewind a little bit. You mentioned the moving company, right? And that's, the follow-up. You're the visionary. You like to do all this stuff, but the follow-up, I'm the same way. I'm terrible at follow-up. I kind of send it and forget it. Whenever the email comes back, I'm back on it, which means I need to delegate that process to somebody else. What did you learn in there? How did you to apply to your next ones, like to know what your strength was and how to push away the things that were not your strength? Or did you just kind of adapt? Which, I don't know which one you went with.
Wouldn't that be amazing? No, and not just I could do it all. No, honestly, at this point, I have a wonderful EANVA. And very much, I will say, remind me of this, remind me of that, remind me, like, put it in, go high level, and automate it. Like, it is not my brain is going to be 3 steps ahead. And what it does, it's destabilizing. I love the forward progress, but the forward progress is a part of destabilization. Even if you look at growth patterns, right, we kind of destabilize and attempt to restabilize at another level. So I need, even my husband's a little bit more stable. Like recently I've been just like, thank you for stabilizing things. So in light of that, I think that's been exceptionally useful for me. And I would honestly see those people as almost hindering my growth before. Oh, they want to slow down. They want to evaluate. Well, as long as you're not in my way, you're actually an incredible, like solid, resourceful place for this business to get its consistent revenue. And I might want to evolve it, and I want to may break through to a new opportunity or connection, or, I'm out there trying to progress and break through, but some of that's destabilizing. So really have started to value the people who like to kind of sit and marinate, and their tempo is different, right? Their tempo, their focus, their approach. Very grateful for that. And of course, being very clear and specific and setting up your quarters such that everybody knows exactly what needs to keep being followed up on.
For sure. I mean, the systems and processes are absolutely needed. I'm usually not the one to create them. I want somebody else to create it. Like I have all the impact. Like this is where I need, this is what I need looking. Can you write all that down? Cause I'm not going to. Somebody needs to write that down though, So again, like that's a super important. I love that you have the EA and the VA. How did you decide, or when did you decide that you were like, okay, well, a lot of people start with a VA. They just kind of hand some stuff off to them and they don't realize what they actually need is an EA that's going to help direct their calendar better. That's going to help move them in the right direction better. That's going to help kind of form all of your great ideas into the right location. They just want to just pawn stuff off to a VA and not think about it differently. How did you step aside and realize, okay, this is actually what I need to do?
Well, I have a dear friend, Jordan Owens, and he and I have been reflecting back and forth on business growth, personal development growth. And he was just like, I see you and you could really use, like, he advocated for me in light of that. And so when I really felt his advocacy, right? This is how interdependent we are. We actually can really get from someone else's reflection, like this really isn't serves to you. Plus we were putting on events. One of the things that I like to do is rent out maybe an Airbnb for a weekend, do some really deep facilitated valuable work for business owners where they get clear, right? We're asking them for clarity, but they're not even clear about what they want or what, and so who they are and how they operate. And so a little bit of space from their business, to really reevaluate. And so I was hosting these events. Well, I like to be fully present with the people in the room. And I have an EA who's like, she feels anxiety about 3 weeks ahead of time. Fabulous. You know what I mean? Yeah. She's like, we didn't have this ordered. How's this going to come in from Amazon? The food list isn't done. And then the people haven't signed the waivers. And then I'm like, that is your anxiety. Wonderful. Like, I don't need that. Like, she holds it. And honestly, I delegate some anxiety to her because it doesn't have to be mine. I have plenty of anxiety, like making payroll, like keeping it profitable, like building revenue, building out new streams. That's my anxiety. That's your anxiety.
That's an interesting way to look at that. Yeah. I would have never thought about that because like the way that person's brain thinks that gives them anxiety means that you're preparing all the things that you're not thinking about. Like you're thinking about them that I don't have to, right? So it doesn't give me anxiety for all the details because like, I don't pack for a trip until the night before because I'm like, I don't really care. Like I put it all together, throw it in my suitcase and I leave, because like I can survive the whole trip off of a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, right? Where my wife will be thinking about it for a week and a half. Like, oh my goodness, we got to do this, we got to do that, got to do this. So I never thought about it on that, passing off that anxiety to somebody else. And that's an interesting way to look at it. And Jordan Owens, were you partners with Jordan in the home healthcare stuff? Because I know that's his thing.
Well, he inspired us. His margins inspired us to get in home health.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Yeah, that's really awesome. Jordan's a great guy, and I could totally see him pushing hard on you to make that happen. So
that's one of the best kind of friendships. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I derailed us by jumping off on there. So let me get back. So he helped you kind of push through. You realized that this person is taking some of that anxiety off of you. So now I'll let you go ahead and keep continuing. Sorry.
Sure. And so for me, she's just a very present, supportive, especially when I'm doing these in-person events. Like I want to show up and I want to be thinking about the people. I want to be thinking about what I'm presenting, the energy exchange, enrolling people. But once they're enrolled, like she does the sign up, even at the event, we've got a list of photos for her to take, testimonies to grab. Like that's not where my attention needs to be. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's been great. This person who's here, right, for all that. Then I realized I really want to build out some social media because that is a very important venue to just gain some traction. Now you have to have it as kind of a longer term goal, it seems nowadays, right? So I actually reached out to Marcio and got a VA through that. And she's Gazelle. She's lovely. She has been staying consistent with a TikTok. We've been back and forth. She runs with it. She's running with that. And that's her strength. And for me to try to make my EA have every strength that I can imagine for my business, that's unrealistic, right? Like, okay, everything else, I'm visionary, everything else is you. That's a lot to ask somebody else to take. So I really love the dynamic of actually resourcing and letting people be in their strengths and thrive, even in an assistant role. So I have both, and I feel very grateful for that. That's in my coaching business. Now, of course, in our home care business, there was an office staff, and then, of course, all the staffing that goes along with, fulfilling all the shifts.
Yeah, of course. I know before we started recording, you had talked about, kind of getting those assistants and getting teammates, getting employees was kind of increasing your power, right? You're strengthening your business, increasing the power that you have by extending that out. And I think there's a couple ways to look at that. And I think the only way that you're really increasing that power is if you actually truly delegate and let them do the job. Otherwise, you're kind of sucking the power away from the person and yourself by pulling that in. So I want to pass that over to you. Kind of talk to me about what that meant to you when you said that getting your employees and delegating well is like increasing your personal power.
Right. So to me, power just lands in I have choice and capacity to go get what I want out of life. Right? Isn't that all kind of what we're up to? We want to get what we want out of life. And some people are quite ambitious and they want a lot out of life, AKA entrepreneurs and investors.
Yep.
Now, what I'll find is I get to really closely work with them. And that my coaching business is called self-mastery because I genuinely believe that the mastery of ourselves is the foundation for any other type of mastery in life. And there's a great proverb that says, for a man to master himself is even better than for him to oversee an entire city. Mm-hmm. Ooh, like a whole city, like that would be kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
But it kind of collapses. Like you said, we can end up sucking power. We can end up demanding. We can feel entitled to people doing what we say, how we want to do it. And then we feel offended or frustrated, or we go through these hire cycles where we keep like hiring the same person, but frustrated in the same way. How about we master ourselves? What is it you really want? Can you refine that? Can you define that? Can you release that? Can you give feedback loops at 1%? Not 50% when you're just completely like verging on, do I just need to fire them, right? A 1% reflection. Can we have that kind of personal mastery? Can we catch ourselves at those levels so that we can actually engage others and incentivize them appropriately? A lot of times I think when people want power to get what they want to activate more people to get what they want. Now, how do we get people to cooperate with that? You've got to incentivize them based on what those individuals, not just what you want, what do they want, right? And now we get that interdependence, we get some solid momentum. So I love to understand power because everybody wants it. Everybody wants to get what they want out of life. That's the simplicity of power. I can get what I want. Now, sometimes people are running against a belief where they actually don't think they can get what they want, so they got to keep proving it to themselves. There's a lot of fun dynamics with this, but what I might ask you, Adam, is what would you say is your relationship with power? How would you describe you getting what you want? Let me put it in different language. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe that you get what you want?
Probably a 8.
8. Okay. And what are giving you indicators that, yes, I'm getting what I want at an 8?
Most of the things that I'm chasing, I end up getting, right?
You end up getting.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. What might make it a 9?
Probably adjusting my attitude would make it a 9 or a 10. Yeah.
In what way? What would you say?
I, being a prior military guy, I mentioned this right before we started recording, being a prior military guy, have a tendency, if there is stress, if there's something going on, I go to the no, just do this part of my attitude. And that doesn't usually work out so well when you have employees, because I don't go to what you mentioned is what do they want out of this? It's just, no. This is what I need. I don't care what you want. Do it. And that's not very effective long term. So
Okay. So there is this wavering in you at times, right? Where it's like, I'm not sure I'm going to get what I want. And that puts us into stress or fear. What do we have fear or stress about? Like we can make it it's basically we won't get what we want. The deal won't close. The fulfillment of this contract won't look good. Whatever it is, the system won't be created. And we fear that we're not going to get it. And that adds stress to us. And then we just come like heavy-handed. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, for me, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because it's a little bit hard to hold that tension between your 8 and 10. Right? Like you're a solid 8. So, hey, you're getting a lot of, but there's this tension between the 8 and 10 where it's like, when you're in that space, it's like I go heavy-handed. And if I know that other people will they want stuff. See, this is where there's another I love ancient proverbs because we're working with humans. It's not like we're brand new. We've been around for a while.
Yep.
And it says, an appetite moves a man. We think our iron fist will move a man. Mm-hmm. And it might for a while, right? Shame is a very strong instinctive motivator. When we feel shame from other people, when they make, and some of us very strong personalities can do that a little more easily.
Yeah.
Then we have people who respond. They respond a little bit like a rabbit to a lion, and we're not actually, like you said before, expanding power in our business.
Yeah.
We're the lion, you're the rabbit, do it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Scurry. Their stress builds in ways that are not necessarily conducive, and they may or may not last.
For sure.
So rabbits don't live as long, they got these, they're cute, but they don't live as long. And so we're just looking at that space, right? Of holding some tension of I'm not getting what I want here, and allowing yourself to feel powerless. This is what I think is really tricky for entrepreneurs and investors, because most of the personality types really feel the need to convince and prove that they have a lot of power externally and over others. There are times where we are vulnerable, and especially in expansion, especially when we take on more people and more interdependence, that we actually don't have as much power as we think. Some of our processes, our way of being, our dynamics are putting us fairly in a position of powerlessness. If we feel that pain, plus we really reflect on it, we will get insights that we could not get by just iron fisting.
Yeah.
We can get action iron fisting, but we won't get progress iron fisting, if that makes sense.
For sure. When you say reflect, I want you to open that up a little bit more, because that's going to mean something different to different folks. So what does sitting down and actually reflecting on that pain mean to you? How does that show up in your real life?
Okay, good. That's such a great question, right? Because people can kind of journal it out or go have a hashing session with another entrepreneur, these people, they don't get it. They never listen to me.
And that is sometimes not reflection, that's projection, right?
Yes.
So,
but reflection, if you even look at the word, it's mirror, right? Why did I call this self-mastery? Because look at yourself, right? So it's actually going into the vulnerability of being in a powerful position. I actually work with teams, and a lot of times teams, they will villainize a leader if they think that they are not vulnerable. It will actually produce more villainization. And all leaders have they're being exposed to some level of villainization. That just occurs, authorities, leaders. But especially when you don't show any vulnerability, and I'm not an advocate of showing a ton to your leadership, but some humanness, they don't relate to you as a real person. They just see you as this power person, this person who's just trying to get what they want out of life. And they're more prone to villainize. And so the cycle perpetuates. But if you actually were to reflect, you look at your own humanity. I feel powerless. When Susie said, I can't get to it this week, I felt, you got to get into the feeling state, because we are moved far more by feelings. The subconscious and the limbic system of the brain is making if you're in sales, people are making decisions based on emotion. And then you think you're being logical. How ironic, right? This is everyone tells me how logical they are. And I'm like, every sales mentor has ever said every decision is going to be made at an emotional state, right? And you're a visionary or you're a leader, this, but you see yourself as very logical. So you got to get into the feeling. You got to get into that pain. I felt powerless, or I felt shamed, or I felt humiliated when she said that in the meeting. And I react. The story I tell myself is, so narratives are very powerful for us. Narratives and identities drive a lot of our decisions from our subconscious as well. I told myself that no one's ever going to speak to me like that. Or that's how I react. So the story I tell myself is, she doesn't respect me. Well, when it could just be she's overwhelmed. She doesn't have a system in place. She was afraid that she would disappoint you if she took it on. She really does respect you. We don't know. We're just, right? So, but the story I tell myself, what's underneath of that is my fear that people will not respond to my language. I'm not enough. Something along those lines. Now we're getting into reflection. Does that make sense, Adam? Now you're putting a mirror up. And then you can look at what I really want is and what could really be possible. Now I have a ton of exercises for this. I've done this a ton, but for the sake of this podcast, I would say you got to get into the feeling of it. Go feeling, go narrative, go response. All of that's going on in you. None of that has anything to do with her. Once you can own that, for a man to own himself even more than an entire city, now you've got some possibility for progress. Now you can hold some tension, let's say between that 8 and 10, and you can kind of be with her and maybe follow up 5 minutes. Again, we don't, entrepreneurs, investors don't like to waste their time.
Mm-hmm.
Make
Truth.
it a very specific conversation, but say, when you said that, what were you feeling? What were you concerned about? What was your fear? And you might find that person say, I was afraid to disappoint you. I know how much you really want to get this done. And if I tried to get it this week, it would kind of be a sloppy job.
Mm-hmm.
Like my EA, she likes to try to get things done for me. And I have to hold some tension when I travel. I might meet up with this person. I might do this. This might be another networking event. And what we really decided, she wants to get it done for me. She wants to save me money, because sometimes you wait longer and the prices go up for flights and cars. And I just said, okay, we did these 1% reflections personally, reflections to each other. And I said, actually, what I just need you to know is keep sending me the price increases. It will put the right kind of pressure on me and it will alleviate you. That's my anxiety. Remember when I said we have different anxieties? My anxiety, that should not be her anxiety. She's trying to make a decision for me. She can't do that. It'll put her in a powerless state. She needs me to make the decision, the finalization of it. She's doing all the data and all the resource, and like she's putting it in my calendar, doing all the cool detail stuff I don't want to do. But ultimately, she can't decide whether I want to stay an extra day and meet up with this business owner. She can't decide where the conversation's going to land, that I may end up doing another speaking or podcast. And so it's just keep sending me updates about how much I'm costing myself. Let that breed some anxiety over here. And it's alleviated a lot of tension. And she has power now to incentivize me, and I have power to hold some of my own anxiety around the expense.
Yeah, and you're both speaking to each other in the terms and ways that you're best going to hear it, right? So you're best going to hear the money loss, where she was going, I just need to get this done. So, okay, well, let's communicate in each other's language. It's one of the things I really loved about you when you just said a minute ago, where you'd sit down with that, that hypothetical girl we were talking about and say, hey, what do you feel during that moment, right? Because now I can speak to you. You're forcing her to reflect. You're forcing your employee to reflect in a way that you just did, right? Which is you're now teaching some of that leadership and reflection to this person, and then go, okay, now I can understand my person a little bit better. Now I can understand my team member a little bit better and can speak to them a little bit differently to allow them to have the power that they need for me to step aside a little bit more. So it's all being able to work with each other and making that happen. So I love the way you worded that. Right.
Because as we've discussed, when we delegate that, we actually want the power of what we're creating to expand. And not to be confined to our own emotional responses and fear. Like, we actually want to grow. We want to develop our capacity to extend and to empower larger groups of people to fulfill on meaningful things for us, but also them. Everybody needs a sense of meaning and power, not just the leader. It's just leaders take on more of the responsibility to kind of hold the frame for all of that to occur.
For sure. Yeah. And it's the difficulty of being a leader is making sure that you're actually leading, and instead of taking or pushing or driving. And by doing that reflection, I hope everybody remembers that pain plus reflection equals progress. So because I too often will feel the pain and just go the other direction because I know that the pain was the problem, and don't take that time to reflect because I don't have time for that nonsense. Well, if you don't have time for that nonsense, then you're not trying to be a good leader and run your business the way it needs to be ran. So take advantage of the opportunity.
Well, and I think I have a really good exercise on not enough. So one of the reasons I love coaching entrepreneurs and investors is, I've taken a fair amount of my own therapy and work. I love personal work, right? Mm-hmm. But what I would say is there's a bit of a fear in entrepreneurs sometimes that some of this interpersonal work will make them soft, right? And they understand that some of their edge is what drives them. So they're conflicted. Okay, empathetic, nice, cooperative. Ugh. Okay, and I got goals, y'all. Guess who's funding the next meal? It's me. Like, or yacht, or whatever, whatever income level you're at, right? The next yacht party is it's on my back. Okay. So they feel the need to maintain a strong edge, as they should. Right. And so that's kind of how, one, they're wired, and two, it works. So if one, they need a lot of acceptance around that. So in light of this, the not enough exercise is, we need to own that there is unconditional value and there is marketplace value, right? And we get some reflections of unconditional value between our maybe core family and some close friends. But when it comes to marketplace value, the market ain't playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You either deliver or you don't deliver. You close the sale or you don't close the sale, right? And so we might not be enough. We might actually have feelings and experiences, especially when we ask ourselves to grow, like that we feel that gap.
Yeah.
So when we're with a sense of, we're not enough, or we're frustrated, or we're stressed, we're going to be taking that on as a leader a lot. And if we have a process by which there's some not enoughness, I can't get people to there's very vague, people feel very vague, not enough. What high performers don't want is somebody to high five them. Michael Jordan did not want somebody to go, "You're enough, brother." He wanted somebody to say, "Take another lap. You could do better than this," right? So we need to hold the tension of, you have unconditional worth and you have some things to develop. And if you can't get your team to move the way you want them to move sustainably over time, some of your patterns are probably not enough. Time to do some work, time to do some reflection, and notice. If you're in just a state of not enough, it could be childhood wounds. It could be, I could never get my mom's or dad's approval. Okay, well then that needs to be processed and grieved. But there are also skill sets to develop: emotional intelligence, leadership. And so to distinguish, I love the work of distinguished, because we actually need to have that foundational core unconditional value. And we need to accept, to really be a fabulous leader, and to really delegate at the level that which we want to expand our impact or our potential. We have some things to grow in, and that's good. We like that. That's okay. Maintain your edge, and you can feel some of your own anxieties. That's not a problem. You didn't get an entrepreneur because you wanted something that put you to sleep.
Yeah, no kidding. And you're not going to lose your edge just because you get a little bit softer here and there on the edges. On the you're still going to have that. That's in you. There's no reason that that's going to disappear. I think it's just going to strengthen you in the long run. So, and that's semi-hypocritical of me to say, because I have a very difficult time. I struggle with that exact thing we're talking about right now. But I know that if I take that time, it works out better.
Let me ask Adam, where could you see? Ooh, okay. Where have you been soft and it cost you?
I have a bias in my brain to think that almost every time I've been soft, it's cost me.
There you go.
Right. So, which makes me not want to, especially when you look at the military stuff. There's no time for soft when you're running around the mountains of Afghanistan.
Understood. Right? And by the way, thank you for your service.
Oh no, my pleasure. I appreciate it. But it does ingrain in you a certain mindset that the soft is, you can't be stuck on the side of a mountain because you're soft, right? You need to go for it. So there've been multiple times where I have always felt like if I got into my feelings, I make bad business decisions. I make bad personal decisions because once I get into my feelings, I lose control of my ability to make wise decisions. So
beautiful. So one, we actually have not become masterful with our emotions. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. Because if you just feel without mastering them, you end up probably indulging, self-pity. It just cycles somewhere that just doesn't feel productive.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of it giving you a signal, what I often say is, like, if you're going to fly a plane, right? I don't want a pilot who ignores the dashboard. Sticky face, sticky face, sticky face. Like, just do it on all the dashboard. Like, pay attention, please. But I also don't want somebody who's overwhelmed by anything or everything that shows up on the dashboard, right? Either way, a crash might be coming.
Very true.
I think that's why men often, like the amount of midlife crises or the amount of kind of internal struggles or suicide rates upon men are very high. And I'm not saying like that's an extreme, but it is, men have not actually been trained often on how to master their emotion, and women, I would say. But the context of especially men, more even so, feel like softness is a cost. Now, I'm not, again, an advocate of just being soft all the time. What I am saying is when we want to delegate that, we're delegating, at least at this point, I know AI is rocking, but at least at this point, we are delegating to humans. And if we don't understand the exchanges that occur between the subconsciouses of humans, the energy exchanges, the emotional exchanges of humans, then we are actually fighting against the very thing that we want as an outcome. So we've got to lean in and be with that dynamic for our own good. I'm not saying, and I think, Adam, I would be curious. You might have a really, really tender heart. I've seen the way you talk about your kids, your wife.
Yes. With my kids and wife, that's where I was at. Anybody else? No. There's a big wall around it. Yeah.
It's a fort, y'all. I mean, he can't barely smile at me this whole podcast.
You ain't getting in.
But what I'm saying here is it's an opportunity, right, to not feel like I'm going to just let the dashboard overwhelm me. And maybe I only focus on one at a time. So when I work with people, I'll ask them to at least make a 6-month commitment, because we need to retrain, right? We don't necessarily go to the gym once and come out, buff. We got to work on this. I know. But I think if we take one reflection, one pain point, anger, sadness, one of them, what's your relationship with it? Where might your avoidance of it be causing you to overstep some of your reflection and therefore hinder your progress? Because all the other humans around you are also feeling very uncertain about that. If you can master your own emotions, you can start mastering the emotions of other people around you.
For sure.
And now you've got a team that's deeply with you. So I would say in that space, it probably for you, Adam, like let's say, since we're talking, I might take one emotion and have some curiosity around it. One of those that might make you feel a little softer. You don't need to become vulnerable to all, but maybe vulnerable enough to yourself in the mirror and go, what is occurring around this emotion in a way that I haven't necessarily noticed on the dashboard, and how can I leverage it as a human? Like I said, anxiety is actually really, thank you for holding that anxiety. I need you to have some anxiety. Thank you for being sad around that. It means there's a missing. Something's not getting complete and done. Now, if it completely disrupts you and sinks you, that's not useful, but there's ways to master these things and master our humanity. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely love it. Katie, this has been really awesome. I didn't like how it turned around on me multiple times, but I got a little, my seat needed to move a little, but no, I absolutely appreciated everything we talked about. I loved it. It is definitely in line with being able to understand how to better manage, how to better lead, how to better delegate. So I greatly appreciate you jumping on and talking to us about this. If somebody's hearing this and it resonates with them and they're like, man, I really want to get on a call with Katie, what is the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Sure. You can go to ksatieclose.com. You can go to Katie Close Coaching on Instagram and just reach out. There'll be, DM me and let me know what's intriguing you right now. What kind of things do you want to master for you and or your team? Because right now as humans are the best resource we've got. So let's learn how to really work with them.
Absolutely. Cannot agree more with that. So Katie, thank you so very much. Everybody listening, thank you for jumping in and listening to this wonderful conversation with Katie. I hope you got just as uncomfortable as I did in looking at yourself and understanding where you may be missing the mark. So if you can share this with somebody that you think would get some value out of it, please reach out to Katie if there's anything she could do to help serve you. Thank you again, Katie. Thank you for everybody listening, and we'll see everybody on the next show.